Welcome to the Present and Sober podcast with your hosts, Sam Goldfinch and Ellie Crow. If you want to make your life bigger, not smaller, then this is the podcast for you. If you can sense that you're destined for more and you're curious about how drinking could be holding you back, listen in and come on this journey with us. Through the interplay of mind and body practices, we will help you elevate your daily life and discover the wonder and potential of going alcohol-free. Let's make life bigger together. Hey, you wonderful people. Okay, this week we're talking about parenting. And obviously, we've got a resident expert who knows a lot about this subject. Me. No, I'm joking. I'm definitely not an expert in parenting. I did wade in, though, with my teaching experience. So, we'll see. It was an interesting conversation, really interesting conversation. Really, what we're talking about here is relationships and how will they change when we become alcohol-free? And there's a load of magic in here. So whether you're a parent, whether you want to be, whether you don't want to be, there'll be something in here for you. So we're really excited to put this out. The only other really exciting thing I want to mention is that our very own Ellie Crow will be in the August path for This Naked Mind. So the best way to get in there, if you want to join, is through the link that we've put in the show notes. Not only will you get it for the best price that you will find anywhere, we'll get a little bit of investment back into the show if you use that link, which would be just amazing. So Ellie's in this one. And we don't know how long it'll be until either of us are in another group at the moment. So it might be a while. So if you are looking to get some support and you'd like Ellie Crow to be one of your wonderful coaches, then get yourself in the August path. And feel free to ping either of us a message if you've got any questions or send an email or whatever. All right, team. Without further ado, parenting with Sam Goldfinch and Ellie Crow. See you there. Great. So that's the perfect time to start then. Are you chewing into the microphone?
Yep.
I can't hear. No one can hear you, but if I do clip this, it's going to look really odd as a video. Can't hear it.
No. Can't hear that.
Can't hear that.
That's a waste of fucking time. Anyway, I was just eating my grapes like Mooncat.
Who's Mooncat?
Oh God! Why don't you know Mooncat?
Is that because I don't have kids?
No, Mooncat's old. Mooncat's from the 80s. Used to eat grapes.
Mooncat and the Clanks.
Put your hands up in the Facebook group if you remember Mooncat. And a bonus point if you can find a picture of him on the internet. It's a bit scary, actually. And in fact, there was a crow on Mooncat, and it was scary as fuck.
I'm looking at Mooncat now.
Yeah, look for the scary crow. I used to shit myself. Well, not literally shit myself. But I was quite scared of it when I was a kid. But here's a fun fact about Ellie. I was also scared of Big Bird from Sesame Street.
I'm looking at Mooncat now.
Crazy, yeah?
I've never seen this before.
Cosmic.
Definitely Scary Crow.
Yeah, it's a horrible... Oh, actually, was that on Mooncat or was that on something else? That might have been on something else. There was a really scary crow from some TV program from the 80s. Anyway, serious, just not seriously. We've got a 5-star review, Mr. Sam.
Yay! We've got some of them. That's great. We've got a few of them. We haven't had a 1-star yet.
And this
is going to happen one day, isn't it?
This is. Oh no, I think somebody has done that, but I don't know whether
it's 1-star.
Yeah, but I can't see. There's no review, so I don't know whether it's just somebody being an arsehole or whether it's somebody that's kind of like clicked it by accident. Or
either way, you got to have some 1-star. You haven't made it until you've got at least one. So whoever that was, thank you very much. Hey, I'm not going to say it. I know who it might be. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, the person we were just talking about.
No, I don't. Go on, crack on.
Anyway, big thanks to Great During Remodel, who's sent us this wonderful review. Listen to this. Relatable, brilliant, creative, compassionate, hopeful, practical, deep, soulful, and hilarious. Back round again. Excuse me. Their banter, waffle, and spew fountains of wisdom that spring forth from some cosmic river, which they make clear we can all access. Fucking love that review.
Yeah, you're in the cosmic river. That's cool. That sounds like a
Wahoo.
Sounds like a something, doesn't it? The cosmic river. Oh, look at that!
Look at us with our matching Path mugs. Big shout out to the February 2022 Pathers. who sent us a
Whee.
beautiful mug.
It's a good sized
say
mug,
thank
that.
you.
Who
It is.
I get offended when people give me tea in a little mug. Do you know what's even worse than that? Is if people give you tea in a little mug and it's not a full cup. What's wrong with people?
Well, I was about to say that's old people do that because they're worried about bedwetting, possibly.
Oh, I just hurt my side.
Oh, so
They worried about me. Worried about me bedwetting or because fair enough, have a half cup of tea. But think about me. I need a full one.
I had dinner al fresco, no, lunch al fresco with a friend last week. And at the end of our meal at a wonderful vegan restaurant in Cambridge, I got myself a lovely vegan dessert, which was outstanding. And he ordered an espresso. And it's a long time since I've had an espresso. And I looked and I was like, what's the fucking point? It's like
oh no, I get that. But that's
a
not
milliliter.
tea.
I'm like, what? Why? In a massive cup. I'm like, what's the point? What's the point of that?
Well, taste.
Anyway.
I mean, people just like the taste of an espresso, don't they?
I like the smell of it. Anyway, we're here to talk about something today.
Yeah.
Very important. Oh, we're going to talk about a subject that Sam knows much about.
Yeah, much requested.
Because of my sharing, probably. Sharing is caring. We're going to talk about parenting. Oh, parenting alcohol-free. Do you know what? When I made my cup of tea before we came to do this, I was just thinking about the wise words of a good friend of ours. Do you remember when I did a Saturday Night Live or a Friday Night Live with Mr. William Porter, and he infamously referred to parenting as, and I quote, deeply unpleasant work.
He's so fucking funny. He's been posting some absolute wondrous stuff recently, I must say.
He has. Oh, he's posted quite a lot.
Yeah.
So,
read
quite
into
an
that
eyeful.
what you will. And fair play. I've started to think maybe I should be doing that. Maybe that's how I'm going to get more followers.
God, Sam, I'm starting to have palpitations. I'm having palpitations right now. Okay, so we're going to talk about parenting alcohol-free, this deeply unpleasant work that we're called to, some of us. Where should we start, Mr. Sam? I feel like I'm just right in the middle of the washing machine, so maybe you as an outsider.
Okay, so here we go then. So if we're going to talk about parenting alcohol-free, I guess it would make sense to talk about how things have changed from parenting with alcohol to parenting alcohol-free. I'm sure there's a few things that we could talk about there. Go on, let's hear it.
Oh God. It's still just as hard as it ever was, but I'm not hungover every day. So there's that.
Win. Yeah, big win.
But I used to go along to all these fucking baby groups and stuff, and I would be utterly hungover, not really wanting to have to engage and make conversation with other people, and looking at them, looking back at me, probably in exactly the same state. And it was just a bit of a soul-destroying existence, but largely because the exhaustion and the sleep deprivation and the workload, all of that is hard enough in itself. But when you are putting your body under the stress of drinking, I was drinking on a pretty much a daily basis, and I'm not day drinking, although I did do that. Not at toddler groups. I was primarily drinking at the end of the day as this seemingly relaxing pursuit to, end the difficulty of the day. But it then would seep into the next day, and I'd wake up having been sleep deprived for most of the night, thinking like, how the hell am I going to get through today? I feel fucking terrible. And then towards the back end of the day, start to feel better again. And then, oh, well, you know what would really help right now? So the difficulties are still there, the workload's still there, but I'm not doing it with my hands tied behind my back. And that's what it really felt like. And when I discovered the truth about alcohol and how it works with the brain and body, is why I was just so fucking adamant that I had to get into this kind of work to be able to let people know that it's a scam and it's not helping you. It's doing the exact opposite. Because parenting is bloody hard enough, as William says, deeply unpleasant work, a lot of it. And you don't need anything else working against you. So that's the big thing.
Yeah, and I think I love how Saki is with that. It's so great.
I don't think he's being serious.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, it's like, well, it depends what we mean by unpleasant, right? Because obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff that's uncomfortable. But I know, I mean, look, there are people. I'm one of those people. I don't have kids. I don't know if me and Rob will have kids. And yeah, I mean, the idea of it sounds horrible. Some of it.
And you're
some
right
of it sounds
to think that.
And some of it sounds absolutely great. You're bringing these little humans into the world. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, something that you've often said that that really kind of I really felt as true for you, and I think is true for a lot of other people, though, is that the time that you do have with your kids is very different. Like, I know that you've sort of spoken about how the frustrations of, you know, reading stories at bedtime when you want to really just go downstairs and have that glass of wine because that's your me time, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then the kind of the feelings that we have around that, because we want to be there for our kids, because it's not on them, right? It's not like so yeah, I guess even to be free of that and to see that was, you know, it was you were doing the best you could with the thinking that you had at the time, absolutely, as well. So there's no point like hanging on that, and it was as it was, and now it's not like that anymore, and we're all doing what makes sense to us, right? So yeah, I guess it's lovely to be free of that. I mean, I don't know what comes to you.
100% it is. You know, I used to have that every night. It was the same thing and at the time Chester would have been about 4, and he'd have his little, I've read the kids a story, try to put them to bed as quickly as I can so I can go get a glass of wine, and he'd be reaching his little arms up, "Mummy, will you lie with me while I fall asleep? Can I have another story?" All that business. And I could either lie with him looking at my watch, willing him to fall asleep, feeling slightly resentful, or disappoint him, have to see his little disappointed face as I disappear out of the bedroom, go get a glass of wine, and then I'd sit there thinking, like, why am I doing this? Like, why is this my priority? So yes, you're right, to be free of that. You know, bedtimes are still difficult sometimes. Like last night, you know, at 9 o'clock at night, I'm still trying to wrestle them into bed, but it's a different thing now. It's like, you know, I've got little Noah in one room wanting me to stay with her, and Chester wanted me to stay with him in another room. But I don't have that, you know, I'm not caught up in any of that wanting to be somewhere else. I'm just present to whatever's going on with them. And it is wonderful. And I was sitting there last night thinking as Noah was falling asleep, holding a little hand and just contemplating, like, when she was born at home, it was beautiful. Just this, like, how she's grown in, you know, she's only 4, but how much she's grown from this tiny little baby, and how lucky I am to be present with them in a way that for so many years I couldn't be, because I was in a difficult place with some, you know, misunderstandings about how it all worked. So it is wonderful to be free of that, because I used to hate when people used to say to me, make the most of it because they grow up really fast. Yeah, but I couldn't make the most of anything because I was just in such a bad place. It was just so difficult, compounded by hormonal stuff. Sleep deprivation is no fucking joke. It's hideous. So you can't, it's impossible to make the most of it because you're just clinging on to get through the day. So parenting now is still extremely challenging, but it's just, it's not this utterly impossible task that it was before. And I've learned so much about myself and being able to, like, I always wanted to be more peaceful with the kids, more relaxed, and that's, yeah, don't get me wrong, I have my moments, but that's generally how things are. And to just be able to soak it all in. I mean, yeah, there are times where you're thinking, God, I wish this bit was over, because it's just bloody, it's, you know, it's a William Porter moment of, God, this is deeply unpleasant. But, you know, it's just part of it. It's just part of it. It's very different. It's very, very different. And I'm very thankful to be in a different place with it, because as I keep saying, it's hard enough. It's hard enough without making it more difficult for yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's supposed to be, right? In the sense that most things in our life, things that are achievable, and things that we'd love to have happen, or the most meaningful things that happen are in our life, or from anything, like, so very often, the most meaningful and most important events in anybody's life, the birth of children, the death of a parent, deep sort of plant medicine work. What's the thing that runs through all of those things? Or, overcoming addictions, this kind of stuff. Well, there are moments of absolute joy and elation, and there are moments of real challenge and difficulty, and and that looks like it's actually bound together. So I think just because something has moments where it's really unpleasant, where it's really difficult and challenging, doesn't mean that seems to be part of the fact of it being so meaningful. And some of that adversity is where we grow and learn so much about ourselves. So yeah, I mean, bringing a life into the world, right? And it's pretty magical. It's pretty incredible that we can do that. And yeah, there's a lot that comes with it as well, particularly if you have 3 of them.
Oh no. Yeah, 3's a bad number. Like, if people had always said, like, just stay with 2. It's 3. 3's the bad number. When you tip over 3, you could have as many as you like, but it's 3. Funny enough.
Why is that? What's the difference?
Oh, it's just a fucking night. Well, you're outnumbered.
They can take you from every angle then.
Yeah. We were at was it the kids' football last Monday, and there was a mum there, and she had this little girl. There's like an older girl sat down with her, and or seemingly sat down with her, and then a little kid playing football, and then this 3rd child. I said, "She's your 3rd, isn't she?" I could just tell by the goings on. She's a tiny little toddler, and she had that look in her eye of, like, I know you don't want me to do this, but I'm going to do it. And it was so familiar to me. But all of that is, while it is bloody intensely difficult at times, it's amazing. It's amazing to spend time with these little beings that, they just take you right back to what it's like to be, without all of the conditioning, and without all of the belief systems, and particularly when they're really young, like the age that Noah's at right now, where she's not bothered about fitting in, or some social conventions she's interested in, but she's just into being herself, and that's so utterly wonderful, so wonderful. So there's so much to look forward to and to be thankful for when alcohol's out the way. But you also need to amass ways of coping with the difficulty and the workload and all the rest of it, because it takes its toll, on your nervous system, and physically, emotionally, psychologically. It's a lot. It is.
Yeah, well, a lot of this dials back into the conversation that we had. Perhaps it aired last week, I'm not sure, but when it aired, when we were talking about kind of relief and those kinds of things, and being with our feelings. And it seems to me that, I think we're always dialed into this kind of, the intelligence that's running through all things. No one is not plugged in, but it seems like once we move alcohol out, there is like we have a clearer channel. We kind of pick up on the messages a bit more. And when it comes to parenting, when it comes to not sort of not being so reactionary and perhaps wanting to, because I think one of the things that I imagine every parent, well, I don't know if every parent does think about this, but this kind of wanting to do the best job that we can and wanting to try and learn from the amazing things that our parents did well and not so well, and not just repeat that sort of unconsciously, but to actually to recreate the things that are sort of beautiful, and to try our best to not, react to do again the things that, we found difficult or challenging. And we're going to make our own fun, but our own kind of assessments of what those things might be. And not having alcohol in there, that are one of the most amazing things that we're going to get in any relationship. I mean, this isn't just parent-child relationship, but it kind of is going to be a very powerful thing for us to be dialed into that, and to have that like that kind of knowing, and to also just, I don't know. I mean, I think often, not always, but often if we've got kind of alcohol running through the system and that kind of stuff, kids are like, they pick up on energies and stuff. They've got less going on upstairs, in a good way. They've got, less stories about how life works, less constructs. And so they're much more prone to kind of just sense things and pick up on things. And so I think it's all of that is kind of cool. It kind of means that we get like I guess, I don't know. If I keep talking now, I'm probably just going to say something random.
No, what you said's really important. And well, two things. Number one, I can't remember where the study was, but we could find it if anybody's particularly interested. I remember in the early days of spending time with Annie, she shared it with us. And it was to do with, it was quite hard reading. So I didn't read much of it because it was, I couldn't at the time. But the big thing that I took away from it was that children that are around people, caregivers that are drinking, even if it's just one drink, they don't feel safe, was the takeaway. And so what you're saying about, how perceptive children are and what they feel, we might not realize entirely the impact that we can be having. And the whole having the opportunity to rewrite things, to recreate things, to end certain cycles, I think is one of the most important things that we can be doing. And I hear that over and over every time I speak with a parent in either one of my groups or one of the This Naked Mind programs. That's what drives people. Like, it's like I want better for myself, but I want better for my children, and I want to end this cycle that's just sort of playing out unconsciously. So something as seemingly small as a substance like alcohol, like removing that change, making that one change in your life, can have some really incredible implications, not just for you, but for all the people around you. And for kids, I'm not sure whether they would remember when I was drinking or not. I remember somebody asking me early on, what does Pearl think? How does Pearl, does Pearl notice the difference? But I'm not sure that they would now remember. It's been so long since I haven't drank. But it's just life-giving. Like, it's like being able to breathe again. I feel like there's something important that I wanted to say. It might come back to me.
Yeah. Well, one thing that does seem to be very important is, if through grace and just life circumstance and luck and all these things, there are people listening to this podcast who are kind of waking up to some of this stuff with very young children, or that's amazing. And there may be people listening where it didn't even occur, and like, this is the story that we're handed by society, and it might not have even occurred to people might be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s or 80s that they're now on this journey. And I think you hear this thing a lot of people kind of, well, I can't change the past, and they feel, guilt, and they're like, it's as it was, this stuff is, until we see it, we don't see it. If you go to a wedding these days and you look at the dance floor, you'll notice it's completely normalized for there to be kids and stuff around when people are like wankered on the dance floor, dancing, alcohol everywhere. If you switch the alcohol for a different drug, people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe that people were taking X drug around kids. Like, the only reason it doesn't seem fucking batshit crazy to us that, for example, smoking weed around your kids versus, cocaine versus alcohol versus, is because of the story that we've got. So all of that's filtered down. In the 80s and 90s, you got adverts targeting mummy wine culture. You got bottle of rose, like all these kinds of like images that start appearing to appeal to kind of increase the amount of heavy drinking amongst women, right? So it's been kind of targeted, and it's been, and it's found its way in. And so I think the one thing that's always worth knowing is the past is done. It is done. And wherever we happen to be and wherever we are with our kids, there is a space inside every single one of us, including our children, where we're completely whole and healthy. It's before this world, and it can change and heal anything if we start looking in that direction. And the one amazing thing that any parent gives their child at any age, if they go on a journey of becoming alcohol free, is presence and openness and being there, full stop. And as it looks to me that once we do that, that's such a gift to give to our kids. Like, even if it's just drinking a bit less, even if it's just actually, having real conversations, if it's, learning how to kind of break down the walls and have connection outside of the, using alcohol and that kind of stuff, that's an amazing gift. And so, yeah, because the one thing that, again, it's innocent, but the one thing that happens if we keep replaying all memories, thoughts and memories and stuff of like what's past and how it could have been different, that innocently keeps us trapped, because the moment all of that drops away, where are we? Well, we're back in the present moment again. And that's the only place we're ever going to have. And it's the only place we're really ever going to connect with our kids. And that's the space where miracles happen, because it can't happen anywhere else. Like, the past isn't a place. The future isn't a place. The only place available where miracles of connection and all these kinds of things is now. Like, that's it. That's all any of us have got going for us. So that's the place from where we're going to have real conversations, where we're going to, and you just never know. What was it that sort of, and yeah, I don't know. There's so much in here, but I hear so much weight on people for, past decisions and stuff like that. And we're all at every single point of our life, like we've said over and over again, doing the best we can with the thinking that we've got. And you don't have the same thinking anymore, which is why you're looking at it in a different way. And anyway, I think that's important to mention as well, because there's going to be people in all sorts of different places in their life in all different stages.
Yeah. And even when you've made a decision to remove something like alcohol from your life, it doesn't mean that you're never going to lose your shit again. I had this ambition to be present and peaceful. That's what I wanted, and responsive as opposed to being reactive. And I've often described it a bit like a seesaw or a scale. You over time tip the scales, but it's always going to have like a little bit of a wobble. There are going to be moments where you aren't at your best, and all of that's okay. I think it's important for our kids to see our humanness and see how we can forgive ourselves. There's a couple of things that one of my teachers, so Elena Brower, she's done some really lovely work around parenting, and there are a couple of things that really stick out that sort of fall into this part of the discussion. She offered this phrase around those moments where we show up less than we might like, and it's to say to yourself, how human of me to XYZ. And so rather than us getting caught up in blaming and shaming ourselves and guilt tripping ourselves and beating ourselves up and judging ourselves. We can just drop it immediately, recognize our humanness, and move to a place of forgiveness. So that's one thing that I'll often hear her saying that in my head. And the other thing that she talked about quite a lot was having a do-over. And with the kids, it's been a really lovely thing to introduce it with that frame of effectively not just asking for forgiveness, but having an opportunity to make reparation, to do things over in a way that you might like to have done if you hadn't been reactive. And the wondrous thing about putting this into my little family unit is that it's bridged a gap where otherwise there might have been more tension, there might have been more disconnection. And so I've sort of modeled that for the kids, asking for a do-over at times. And of course, you know, so if you ask your little kiddos, you know, can I have a do-over? That didn't quite go the way that I'd liked. But they don't hold a grudge and go, well, fucking absolutely not. you were terrible, mummy. You know, they're like, yes, of course you can, mummy. You know, and it just breaks down so much of the thought-generated stuff. And then what does it do for the kids? Well, you know, a little while ago, we'd had quite a difficult morning with some, you know, high emotion running, and there was just something going on with my eldest, just something happening for her, and she was struggling to express herself, and she just needed some time. And after she'd had the time, we were in the car ride to school, and she just looked at me and she said, "Mummy, can I have a do-over?" And I just almost wanted to cry, because it's like, you know, we don't have to control, we don't have to you know, hold on so tightly and curate things. And they're wonderful, amazing little beings, and they find their own way. You know, we just need to trust them and connect with them. That's it. And so just this, you know, two little tips. I'm going to ask for your tips in a minute, Mr. Sam. I love those two things from Elena Brower. They can be hugely helpful.
Yeah, well, that looks really magic to me. There's it looks like in any relationship. I love that how Elena puts it, like ask for a do-over. Like I think the thing I've said before previously is like a genuine fresh start, because it looks like in a lot of classical ways of trying to deal with stuff, it's like person A digs a trench, person B digs a trench, and then we kind of just like argue our points and we try and like figure it out in the world of thought. So so we go over the past again and we talk about all of the things that have happened, and we try and understand, like we get caught up in all of that stuff. And in asking for a do-over, what you're really doing is acknowledging that that's not real. Like that's all made of thinking. Yeah. It's not a place, and we're all human, and we, you know, perhaps we got heated or caught up in the moment or whatever it was. And then I'm not surprised that kids are much, you know, if someone had asked me, I would have said, yeah, they're going to be much better at that. They're just because it will just make sense to them. They'd be like, yeah, of course, I just want to like connect with mom or whatever. Which to adults, I think we tend to be, we get more locked into, no, this is right, and I can't let this go, and this is the way. But actually in doing that, that's the best shot we've got of anything. So it looks like, you know, this is where the simplicity seems to come in. Sydney Banks used to say it's all about positive feelings. It's like, well, if you think about that space where maybe it's with your partner or with your kids or whatever, where there are positive feelings, where you feel great, well, they're one thought away. They're what's waiting for you when you have a do-over, when you have a fresh start and you fall into the present moment. And if any of us believe that the thinking that we've got is more important than that, we'll feel that. So if we think that being right is more important than, you know, falling into that space, we'll feel the reverberations of that. If we feel like whatever thinking we've got, and the moment we see through it, the moment we just give that all up and live life exactly where it is, because that's it, right? If you think about it, every single day, every single moment, you are just where you are. That's where your life is. Like if you look around the room that you're in now, sometimes it'll have your kids in it. Sometimes it'll just be you. Sometimes you'll be with a friend. That's where you are. That's life playing out. All of that other stuff that's going on in your head, that's not, it's not real. It's all like thought. It's all memory. It's all stuff but it's not happening. It's not your life. And I think that's where kids just know that. So parenting from that space, Dickon Bettinger, I love listening to him speak. He's such a lovely guy to hear. He talks about how, parenting from the feeling, where he was always very kind of like this, very kind of like closed off and reactive, and was parenting from his head, from up here.
Yeah.
But the more he kind of opened up into this kind of like expansive space, he started parenting. If he felt that he was in his head then he would sort of start saying to his kids that, like, let's not have this conversation right now. You're not going to get the best of me. And he started modeling to his kids, well, if we're all like in high emotions and stuff's going on, let's just feel it. Let's just leave this for now. And then later, when it makes sense, when our moods have settled and when we've got a higher state of consciousness, let's have the conversation. And what you tend to find is that it's less explosive. It makes sense, right? You are, and the thing is, there's a lot of science behind this. When you're in the middle of like a mood, or if it's anger or whatever, your IQ drops. What makes sense to you changes. Like literally, we do things differently. So this is very different to bypassing. This is like, oh, just this isn't tuck all your stuff under the carpet. This is experience what's happening. And then when you're back much more centered and those things have moved through you and more connected to wisdom, then you go and have those conversations and stuff. So, because there's a lot of stuff, I can't, necessarily think of any now. Michael Neal talks about, the whole never go to bed on an argument thing, how much bullshit that is, because it basically means you're just going to stay up all night when you're tired, going over something again and again. And we all know often if you go to sleep and wake up, what's the first thing that often happens? You turn around and look at your kids or your partner and you're like, I'm sorry. Like I was just full of emotion last night or whatever. And it's, and so we have these things that we think we have to do, but actually you're being guided. Like you don't need a lot of that stuff. A do-over sounds magical to me.
Oh, well said, buddy. God, I was wondering what you were going to bring to this, but I think you've brought quite a lot.
Well, that's good.
So
I bought a cup of tea.
Now it's time for your top tips. What's your top tip then? What's your top parenting tip?
Okay, so have a cupboard. So here's the thing: have a cupboard full of sweet stuff that's bright red and bright blue. And you just have that on hand all the time. So if the kids are being annoying, you can basically just wheel it out and say, "Feast on that, kids," and we'll sort it out later on. So that's the first thing. The second thing is no boundaries. That I've found that to work really well in my classroom as well. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, don't ever set any kind of boundaries. Just let them do what they want. And in the end, it works out fine. And the third thing is that there's nothing that a digital babysitter can't fix. So you've always got the TV if everything else has failed. They're my top three. What do you reckon?
Have you had a window into my parenting style?
I hope our American friends, I think we can be quite sarcastic over here, can we? Obviously, I'm joking. I don't know, mate. I mean, I have learned from teaching, one thing that I learned that, and I guess this applies, is that the most loving thing isn't always like the cliche thing. It's not always like, very often it's a hug, and very often but sometimes it's saying no. And sometimes it's, sometimes it's modeling something that someone might be upset about. Sometimes it's like knowing that our kids that they're okay, even if they've got some feelings coming up. Because the moment in teaching, you start trying to kind of navigate what's going on in the classroom according to how all of the kids are going to be, then, you get lost in that. You don't know what to do about it. You've just got to do the best as it looks to you based on the most loving thing for them, the best thing for them. And I think that's, I think most teachers go through this. So, I mean, I certainly did go through this kind of process of, it's going to be fine. I'm just going to be their mate. And I know I've been told that doesn't work, but I'm different. I'm gonna crack it. Trust me. Right. And then after your first year, you're like, fucking hell, I'm never doing that again. So I don't know. I don't know if that's, I guess some of that makes sense. But yeah, I think wisdom and love has many faces. And that's there's no prescription behind that to as it looks to me. Yeah.
Nice. I'm quite blown away, Mr. Sam. Well done.
Well, there we go. Awesome. I think that's probably quite a nice place to leave it. I don't know what you think, mate. It was quite cool. We didn't really even we didn't know what was going to happen with that, did we?
No.
We just know we knew that we had the world's leading expert on parenting, aka me. And we knew that we had you here. So we thought we might, and with 3 kids. So we thought we might as well
yeah. Oh yeah.
have a go. I would love to know. Well, I'd love to know if any of that stuff does make sense. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe at some point I know there's a lot of people that also there's a lot of things that can happen when we stop drinking around wisdom, around realizing, I don't think I do want kids and things like that as well. And I think there's a lot of pressure for people to kind of toe the societal line and stuff, particularly for women, I think. And I know I'm a man, so I'm only talking from my perspective, but I think there's there's that side to consider as well.
Next week, we've got Sam coming on to talk about the menopause.
Yeah. No, that's not going to be happening. Although I'm very happy to talk about it, but I won't be talking about it as if I have any kind of, what's the word? advice or anything like that. But no, I'm really curious about it. Which is which is fair enough, isn't it? Because I've learned quite a lot. So yeah. Right, team. I'm proper hot here. It's got really warm in Liverpool, and I haven't had the fan on because you can hear it on the mic, I think. And I've just had a cup of tea, so I think I need to go and
hitch yourself up. You got to go and eat your duck now.
Get in the fridge for a minute.
Last week.
Oh yeah, that's odd, isn't it? Because I was like, oh yeah, I could, but to our listeners, like, it hasn't just been sat there for a week, but maybe it has. No one knows.
With some salmonella.
No one knows.
Tasty.
Right.
This is probably my birthday episode as well.
Is it? Yeah. When's your birthday? Remind me again.
Same day as Tom Cruise, 3rd of July.
It's on me. It's on my calendar.
Maybe you could send me a little present featuring a magpie. That would be nice.
Do you want me to do? I'll just send you a magpie.
No, don't, because this one will get upset. Him and I are good friends.
Oh yeah, I don't want to. They're probably quite territorial, aren't they? Don't want him going around stomping on them other magpies with these Doc Martens or sparkly loafers or whatever. Right. Let's leave it there. Right, team. Have a lovely week. Anything else to add, Ellie Crow? Say something profound. What? Brilliant, as ever. Magic.